Welcome back to Straight Facts, an action-packed show for you this morning. Is Amorim's head on the chopping block? Will he be sacked soon after the dreaded public vote of confidence this morning? Obviously, a 3-0 thrashing at the hands of local rivals Man City yesterday. 4 points from the opening 4 games and knocked out to Grimsby. We're delving into all of that. Plus, we're looking at Arsenal, who silenced their critics and bounced back with a very solid, an emphatic win, actually, over Nottingham Forest and Big Ange as their new players shine. And we have to have a conversation about Noni Madueke. Is this actually a very good deal? Liverpool with another late dagger, not just to hurt Burnley for the second game in a row, who conceded penalties in the last minute. But Chelsea fans, Arsenal fans, City fans thought that Liverpool were going to drop points and become the first team in English football history to score 4 winning goals, 4 games running in the last 10 minutes of a football match. Plus, we talk Chelsea, who drop huge points dropped by Chelsea Football Club in the last minute. But should the goal have stood? We have an action-packed show for you today. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Please get that done. Make sure you are subscribing. Get that bell notification button turned on as well. But gentlemen, good morning. Welcome back. How are you both?
Yeah, pretty well.
No, good.
Not as good as Jamie though. I know he's on top of the world right now.
Listen, you did a good week as well. I think Terry's the only one that had a bad week.
I'll be honest with you. I am throwing myself into retail therapy. I'm going to buy a nice new M4 today.
Oh, I saw that. I saw him post that yesterday. I was thinking, yeah, look at the post. Terry's just lost the match. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go do some car shopping. He's like, should I buy it? I was like, yeah, it must be nice.
I was like, yeah, I saw it. And I was like, every time I buy a car, I never just buy a conventional color. I like something a little different, or the inside's a little different. So that's what I'm going to do today to cheer myself up. A little bit of retail therapy, because it's horrible. And look, it's probably the place we've got to start today. We've got to start this morning on Straight Facts. And that is Manchester United, who fell to another defeat yesterday. The rhetoric online, gentlemen, is very much from a lot of United fans is Amorim's got to go. This isn't working. It's a disaster. What are you saying, George? Because if you look at the game yesterday, we had our moments. We had chances and we had opportunities to create chances, didn't take them. We even had opportunity to get back into the game later in the match when we made when the manager actually put the right players in the right positions, and we missed our opportunities. But again, comprehensively beaten by a rival, 14th in the league. A lot of United fans are angry. The players don't look like they're buying into this. Give us your thoughts, mate.
Yeah, the system prevails yet again, like it just shows that it's just not working. And do you know what? We can keep going back to the point of, he doesn't have the players. I saw Gary Neville talking about after the game. He doesn't have the players to play his system, blah, blah, blah. He knew that 2 weeks ago. Transfer window ended. You knew you didn't have the players to play your system. You knew that it was going to be square pegs and round holes. And you're continuing to put these players in compromising situations and scenarios where you're now playing against the best team in the league, and it's just not working. We're not one of the best teams in the league, I should say, because Man City aren't that at the moment, but it's just not working. I think from we saw nice and early, I think they were always going to have a lot of freedom. Phil Foden, he loves a Manchester derby, and rest in peace to Ricky Hatton, but that probably helped as well. The City of Manchester and the Manchester City side just have that little extra bit of fight in them going into that game. And it's just one of those ones. Like, I'll be real, I wasn't surprised by anything that played out. The last goal was the most damning of them all, because we spoke about it a bit before we went off air, like how the centre-backs were a bit too far away from the midfield. But the one time that when the centre-backs do really step up, they get punished for it. So then you look back at it and it's like, now some of the, Harry Maguire's questionings might be, look, when I do step up, Haaland's too quick to get in behind. You don't want to give a player like that even. You probably need a gap between him. You shouldn't be right next to Haaland if you're Harry Maguire. You need to give him 2 or 3 steps back, so you know that you've got when you're going to turn and they're playing that ball in behind, you've got a head start ahead of him, because he's always going to blow him, but he's always going to breeze you in a foot race. And yeah, like tactically, I don't think there's anything that we were surprised with yesterday. So they just naturally played through you. I think it could have been 4 or 5. You had a few chances, but Man City had chance after chance, and even Haaland should have had a hat trick. Scored. I don't even know how he missed. I don't know how he missed that chance when it hit.
Yeah,
it was
ridiculous.
like all over the place. It was like, yeah, this is typical Man United defending, looking like Championship football, and still they just managed to fall apart. And yeah, like for me, like everyone that's now, because I'm been seeing a few people now go Amorim out. It's like it's too early again. You can't now use a game against Manchester City to justify yourself being Amorim out when he said all along, I'm not going to change the system. He said all along that he's going to keep doing what he's doing, and the fact that he doubled down on it was. It's just comical at this point, after in the press conference says, oh, if they want, so I've told Ineos, if they want to play another way, they're going to have to get somebody else in. And it's just like, at this point, he's asking to be sacked because you're not winning games. And now you're telling people, yeah, I'm not going to change. At least go out in the press conference and say, do you know what? I like my principles. I think I might have to review it throughout the season, but I'm still confident in the way that I'm playing. But he's just saying, no, look, I'm going to die on my sword. And for me, he's literally going to die at this point because another 3 weeks of this, he's only playing 1 game a week. So the pressure's on every time you don't pick up points. And if you get into a situation where you go into that other international break and you've only won 1 game between them, so you've got 2 wins throughout this season in 7-8 games, surely he's not in a job. And that's not me saying he should be sacked, because I think he needs time. But at the same time, you are Manchester United. You can't start the season with 8 games and 2 wins or something like that, because he's already had, I think this is the worst start to a season since 92 to 93, and it's probably going to get worse and worse, and a new stat come out weekly.
Yeah, I agree. And their next 4 games United have, so it's Chelsea at home, Brentford away, Sunderland at home, and Liverpool away. Like Brentford away is going to be difficult. Chelsea and Liverpool are probably losses, so you're looking at like 1 win potentially against Sunderland at home. They've just been promoted, so it's only 2 wins against the promoted sides that you're probably going to have this season. It's not looking good. The thing is, though, I seen Alice Talks Football say this as well. She tweeted it, and she was saying the players that he does have in the team right now, they are better than what they're showing. And I think that's the frustrating thing. I think if you look at, say with Ten Hag, for as bad as it was, you're still probably about 8th, like mid-table team. Right now, it's just, and the stats are coming out last night, against all the teams that are in the current division that were there last season, they're worst. You're now below Spurs in terms of like a Premier League table if you're doing the top 17. So it's just the results and the performances aren't there. And what we talked about in the first game of the season, when we said when you played Arsenal, that the performance was there, which was good. But in the end, it's still going to come back to the results, and he's just not getting them right now. And I know obviously you want time to maybe implement his style, and he said that he didn't want to come in midway through the season, but he did do that. And now that the performances aren't there, the results aren't there, people are inevitably going to come question his philosophy and what he's done. It doesn't matter that he's brought in some players. He's not going to get that time now because he's had 6 months to obviously work with the group that he's had. And I think the sticking point with the formation is it's going to continue to come back to Bruno, because one, I actually think you're nullifying yourself by not playing him in a 10, because he offers you so much going forward. His strength is goals and assists. Like, he's one of the best chance creators in the world since he's come to the Premier League. And the fact that you're playing him a little bit deeper, I just think you're nullifying one of the best assets that you have in the team. And then you're asking him to do things that he's just not naturally going to be able to do. Like, I think you could maybe criticize him for the Foden goal yesterday when Foden was in front of him and then he gets ahead of him. And I just think he's ball watching because it's not a natural thing to do. And I just think, like, if you had, I've seen someone else talk about it. If you had Jude Bellingham playing in a 2 of that Man United midfield, he would struggle. If you had there's only very few midfielders in the world that could play in that role of a 2 and do it successfully. And I just don't think he has the players to be able to do it. Like Mainu, you seen him when he came on, and he did one run and he looked so much more comfortable in that role than, say, Bruno does, just because of his natural, like the way he plays. So I just think the Bruno thing, I think, is just something that's going to continue to come back and haunt him. And if he doesn't change his ways to fit the players that he has currently, he's, as George said, he's going to die on his sword. And I just think it's worrying because for United fans, I feel I know you're rivals and I'm obviously lapping it up, but I feel sorry for the fact that you kind of have that optimism at the start of the season and it's almost just withering away and you're kind of looking to next season already because like, it's not like you have another competition to maybe look at. Like you can say the FA Cup, but like how long is that going to like last? You know what I mean? You're kind of almost looking to say, okay, we need a couple of midfielders and Lemens is going to come in, but you're still playing by in there for now. Will Lemens be okay? And you're kind of saying, well, maybe we need a goalkeeper and 2 midfielders and we're not going to get that till next season. So you're almost writing it off already.
See, and this is the thing for me. So I think you both make some really good points, and there's so many talking points with United. And when it comes to the way we're playing, I'm going to wind some people up now on purpose. There are some really good underlying numbers even yesterday. We were still able. That was the most entries we've had into Man City's box in 8 years, as an example. Elements of the system are working. And I think that is where I look at this very objectively. There are things we're doing that are working, but we're not being clinical. In each of our last 4 games, a lack of a clinical edge has been a big impact on why things have gone wrong. I think
No,
my sound mixer just turned itself off, telling me to shut up. They go, that is Amorim outers. They've hacked my house. So
Ineos.
I look at it this way, right? And people will say nothing's working. That isn't true. Okay, stop. And Man United fans are behaving like snake oil salesmen at the moment, and that's the bit that's really frustrating me. There are elements that are working, but we're not being clinical. We saw it against Arsenal. We saw it against Fulham. We saw it even against Burnley. We should have been 3-0 up at halftime, bare minimum. They would never have come back. They'd have been killed off, but we gave them hope, and everybody fancies their chances against us. Yesterday, I wrote them down on purpose, and I wrote the minutes and the timestamps because I wanted to make sure that people didn't forget this. 3 opportunities in the first 18 minutes where the amount of times we forced Rodri to miss control or lose a ball. I'd never seen Rodri do that. Now, granted, he's not the Rodri at the peak of his powers yet after the injury. But 3 times, simple ball in from Ahmad needed. Mbumo's running clean for on goal. Overhits it by a country mile, goes out for a throw. Mbumo played in on goal. Early cross to the back post for Ahmad. Or cut it back for Šeško to have a shot. Delays. By the time he puts a cross into the back post, 2 giants are standing next to the Hobbit. That is Ahmad in terms of height. He's not getting there. Great bit of play. Press the ball off Rodri. Bruno puts the ball out to Dorgu. There's a great opportunity. Šeško is in between the 2 centre-backs. There's big space. Put the ball on his head in the middle. Bang. What does Dorgu do? He aims across for the back post. Again for Ahmad. Hits it behind him. Ahmad tries to do an overhead kick and messes up. These are moments that you have to capitalize on. When Doku breaks through, I know there was that snapshot chance from Haaland in the first 10 seconds. Outside of that, in the first half, the only other big chance they had was the goal they scored. But what did Doku do? Doku didn't whack that ball to the back post for a fullback or a little guy to try and get his head onto the ball. He tried cutting it back to Haaland first of all. Little fortuitous with the deflection back to him. Then what does he do? He aims for the guy that's free in the middle. Didn't aim for a guy that's being marked by 2 people. We seem to do that. In the second half, 3 or 4 times, Dorgu gets the ball, whip an early ball in. The striker's free in the middle. 2 for touch, 3 touch. Time he crosses it, hits the first man. These are things I won't blame the manager for. And I think it's very important for Man United fans to not become snake oil salesmen. Not looking for this cure-all. Not looking for this kind of panacea. If we sack the manager, we are back. We are cooking. Because my question is this, to what level are we going to improve? I agree that if we went and brought Thomas Frank in, I think if we went and brought in Southgate even, I think you would see our win percentage increase. I think we'd adapt, which United fans now want. We didn't want adaptation under Ten Hag, but we want adaptation now. We will adapt and we'll get better by 20%. We might even raise our win percentage by 25%. We'll go from 30-odd to 50-odd. We'll win more games and we'll feel happy. But at some point, the bad recruitment, the years of mismanagement, and the poor squad is still going to start to hurt us. We'll have a period of respite where we go, this feels better. I'm winning 1 in every 2 games or 2 out of every 3 games. I feel so much better now. But that is going to be short-lived. And this is why, for me, and I'll get on to Amorim in a minute, we cannot ignore the multitude of issues that we have and just focus on one thing, which we always do, which is the manager or players. Because if you boys remember correctly, and if we're being really honest about all the Man United fans on YouTube, on TikTok, on X, even in our comment sections that are saying, get rid of the manager, he's the problem. They said Ten Hag was the problem. They said Ronaldo was the problem. In fact, last season, they said, get rid of Rashford, get rid of Garnacho, get rid of Onana. They're the problem. These individuals, they are snake oil salesmen. They are selling you something that isn't right. Don't be suckered into it in your anger. For me, we've got multiple problems still that need to be resolved, which is why no matter who comes in, for us to be fixed, and when I say fixed, I mean able to challenge for the Premier League title as a bare minimum, it's a 3 to 4 year period. We may already be a year into those 4 years, and we probably do need a new head coach, because I don't think these players are buying into these ideas. Examples being the midfield. I keep hearing that midfield gets outnumbered. All midfield play with two in the middle when you're actually playing the game. Forget the graphics of 4-3-3, because what does one of your midfielders do in a 4-3-3? They push on into the attack, which means you have two left. In fact, if you look at Arsenal when they attack, don't Declan Rice and Odegaard go forward, leaving one player in midfield? How do they counteract that? Centre-backs and wing-backs invert and step into that area. Man United centre-backs don't want to do it half the time. We did against Burnley in the first half, and it was brilliant. Look at that. The hole's fixed because Luke Shaw's stepping up. Yesterday, time and time again, Luke Shaw or Euro, depending on the side of the play, weren't stepping up, which meant there was a massive hole. Man United fans will ignore this and just listen to the basic Sky Sports analysis of you can't do two in midfield because teams will crowd it out. All midfields, it doesn't matter if you can start with 5 in midfield. At some point, you empty the midfield to attack. You can't keep 2 or 3 in your midfield at any one time. Otherwise, you don't have enough players in the attack. Well, you play like Burnley did against Liverpool yesterday. It doesn't mean that Amorim isn't making mistakes as well. And he did. And there's already people that are not going to get to this stage of what I've said because they're already losing their minds because they're Amorim outers and they're delusional in their anger. The mistakes yesterday weren't the formation. The mistakes yesterday were the players. And Jamie said it right. George has said it right. And I think Goldbridge tweeted something last night. And I want to give people their credit for also saying this. The Bruno decision is the biggest issue that Amorim has created at this club. Out of all the issues that he may have created, it's the biggest one. He's playing him in the 8, which is not his best position. We're missing him from a creative point of view. When we're getting the ball in and around the box, like we have done, the system is working the ball there. The best player for final balls, the play on the edge of the box, isn't there. We don't have people in the middle that he's not disciplined enough defensively. Should have gone with, yes, we could have had a centre-back step up, but he should be aware of what's going on. Should have gone with Foden, the runner, yesterday. I don't necessarily blame Bruno. I wouldn't call him lazy. I don't think you could call Bruno a million different words. Lazy probably doesn't come up in it once. He just doesn't see the danger because that's not his game. And I don't necessarily blame him for that per se, but it isn't working. And yes, when we made the subs, City were already leading. And maybe they let us have the ball. Maybe for once, Pep's team went, look, we won't try and keep possession when we're leading a game. We'll let the opponents have it. But when Manu went into the middle and Bruno went into the 10, we looked at a completely different team. We put Ahmad back onto the wing-back role. Ahmad don't work in the 10 for me either, by the way. Most of his goals and assists and good performances last season came when he played right wing-back. Everyone forgets this. I think we went through like 8 games where he played 10 and we had Maz at right-back and we didn't score. He works better as a right wing-back, and that's where he should be. As soon as we put players back into their better positions, we look to much better side. So for me, when I look at Amorim, he's making those bad decisions. And the other thing he's doing, again, just is getting ignored. And I think it's so big. And I don't know why it's being ignored. Keep changing the back line in game, always.
It's madness.
It has to stop doing that. So from my point of view and perspective, if we sack him, there's a comment that came through here, Terry, are you still Amorim in? I was never Amorim in or Amorim out. Never. What I won't do is just push this. People assume I'm Amorim in because I don't allow on my platform without challenge. You can say it, but I'll challenge it. Free speech, big up, right? You're not protesting me, all right? You're not coming for me with that. From my perspective and point of view, what I won't do is just allow for the 8th time on the bounce without challenge us to ignore squad issues, ownership issues, behavioral issues, work rate issues, just to say again for the 8th time running, sack the manager and we'll improve. To what end? To what end if we don't address the other areas? And I think it's very important to focus on multiple problems rather than just it being the manager personally. So I'm not Amorim in, I'm not Amorim out. I said it the day he was signed. If we have the right structure and we continue to pull in the same direction, I said theoretically, and I was being slightly pedantic and exaggerating to prove the point, you could change managers every year and it won't impact the club too much, because I stand on this. Like right now at Liverpool, the most important person isn't Slot. It's it's Hughes and it's Edwards, the man that run your football club. You need the right head coach who's good enough, but Liverpool will survive without Slot. You won't survive if the people running your club are not good at their job. That will kill you much quicker and have longer term impact than hiring the wrong head coach. The wrong head coach can be rectified quickly. Look at Tottenham. Look at Tottenham. You know what I mean? Wrong head coach, right head coach, bang, because the squad is actually quite good. But yeah, look, is he going to be sacked? A few people saying, do I think he'll get sacked? Yes, I do think he will. I think eventually he will be. I think once you start getting those media briefs that the club are fully behind you and everything else, I always believe that's the writing on the wall unless the results change. I wouldn't leave it to the international break if they're doing it. It's the first game back after the next international break is Liverpool. So why you would want to give a new manager Liverpool as their first game is just stupid, because our fans are so emotional. They'll turn on that person straight away. Personally,
with Amorim though, like I do feel, obviously I understand he's the issues that he's probably created for himself. I think the Bruno win is something that we're going to keep coming back to, but I do feel kind of sorry for him in the sense that, like, he said he didn't want to come in to the middle of all this madness in the middle of the season last year. He's come in and he's done it of his own accord to obviously try and help United, to try and do something. And like, he's almost like, excuse my French, but he's almost fucked himself, because he's now after being there for 6 months and he's obviously just been terrible. He's gotten into a Europa League final. I know he's obviously lost it, but like, he's not even going to get the opportunity to, like, to say if you sack him, like, as you said, maybe not before the Liverpool game, in the next 2 games. Like, he's 5 games into a season with, like, a team that he's obviously trying to develop, and he's just not going to be given the opportunity. And he didn't want to do what he said he did, which was come in early. He wanted to wait until the summer. And if he had started in the summer, then he gets the opportunity, do you know what I mean, to, like, maybe have a full season at it.
No, I agree. And one thing I can't ignore, I can blame Amorim for everything. We can do that. We can. And maybe this time, Jamie, George, the outers of a manager debate are right and everything's the manager's fault. They could be right this time. 1 in 8, they could be right. But there is also this part of me, and I can't get it out of my mind, that every other time a manager has tried to make the team play what I call a better system. So, okay, guys, look, we're winning 50%, 60% of our games. We've got to go up a level. That means working harder, pressing harder, running more. It means giving more. A lot of it is energy and work rate and passion, right? Every time a manager has asked this group of players to do it, and I know I'm going to put the challenge in before someone else throws it in the comments. It's not the same players. We've bought loads of new players. We know that behavior is passed on from group to group when there's an overlap. It's scientifically and psychologically proven to be the case. So we don't need to get into those debates. And if you don't understand it, go research it and you'll learn. The behavior passes on. Every time these players are asked to do something to increase our levels and our abilities, the manager gets thrown under a bus. And the one thing Amorim did differently, which is why I wanted to see this play out when people were calling for his head 6 months ago, is he just went straight in with that and goes, no, this is how we're going to do it. And part of me, just a little part of me feels, what if this is the players again, working hard, yes, and trying their best, but in those moments just going, I don't really like this, or this is too much hard work, or I don't like the way I'm being made to play. What if it might be subconscious? It might be conscious, might be a combination of the two. What if they're not quite giving their all? Because this is my gut feeling. There was a comment that came in here from Garcia. And we'll go to the super chats now. It says, question for Terry, yes or no answer. I like how he wants to make it reductionist on this. He says, when it gets this bad and likely to get worse, do you sack Amorim now if you can get Raiola if you had the power? Yes, if I had the power. And I can expand on that, because if I had the power, we wouldn't be changing direction. If Areola turned around and was like, yes, I like the profiles, I like what you're scouting, I like what your future targets, I can make this work, my formation will get the best out of what we're doing, then I would go for him. What I would also say, though, to the fans is, I wouldn't say this if I was running the club, of course, because it's unprofessional, but as a fan, I would say, be careful to not get swept up in a wave. Because what is likely to happen, you ever got in the sea before, boys, where there's proper waves? I did it on the Cape Verde Islands on my honeymoon. There's me, loving it, like way big wave. And then this really big one came in and hit me. And I remember hitting the seabed. I thought I broke my back. It was actually like my back obviously was cracking. You could hear it because of the water. I thought I was dead. I'd never seen a real wave before like that. Hit me hard. And I got hit by the next one as well. And I was struggling to get out of the water. I was panicking. I eventually got out and I stand there. And there's some French guy comes sat next to me because I'd gone out for a walk in the morning. The missus is asleep. This French guy was like, he's like, do you not know how to, like, I think he called it dive the waves. I said, no. He was, come in with me and I'll show you how to do it. And I was like, nah, I ain't getting back in the water. Then he taught me how to judge the waves and dive under them. And then it was easy, right? Man United fans are at risk if we get a new manager being caught by that big wave. Because this is what also happens, especially if the new manager comes in and his system or his adaptation suits the players and they like it, is there's this element of an uplift. We get loads of wins. Everyone goes, oh, yes, the manager was the problem. We had this exact same thing with Ollie. We had this exact same thing. We lost the first 2 games, but then we had a great 6 months under Ten Hag. And then what we learned about both those spikes and those periods is the manager adjusted to the players. As soon as it was a case of, right, now we need to press harder in games because we need to, and this is the difference between coming second and third and fourth, but not really being in the title race. And we go back to those Ollie games and that first season of Ten Hag, it's right, we've got to press a little bit higher. We've got to start scoring a few more goals in games. We've got to start shortening those fine margins. The players didn't want to do it. And then what happened to both those managers? We ended up in form that isn't too dissimilar to what we're seeing now under Ruben Amorim. So this is my issue with it all. I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all snake oil charm. There isn't this sort of magic pill, silver bullet that is wonder drug that is just going to fix this. It is going to be a long and hard road with ups and downs, and we have to be prepared for it. Now, that doesn't mean we just stick with a manager. Again, that is a basic response. But it means we have to keep our eyes on all our problems. I'm not against people wanting Amorim gone. What I'm against is people who think that is the solution to completely fixing this. Very different train of thought. Liam here says, hey, Terry, I'm still blindly staying positive about United. Otherwise, I'm not sure about the yellow. About my car. Still running, still stunning. Have seen an M4. Have you seen an M4 touring before? I haven't seen an M4 touring. I like the yellow. The yellow for me, someone said that's like a crappy Ferrari. I'm like, bruv, it's a really nice M4. I'm not thinking about Ferraris. I wish I had the money for a Ferrari, but yeah, thank you. Listen, there's nothing wrong with staying positive either. There just isn't. There is nothing wrong with that. Don't be gaslit or shamed into having to be angry all the time about your football club. You don't need to do that. So well done to you. Amorim should have come in after the FA Cup final. I do agree with that. We should have made a change then. That was the beginning of this problem. It really, really was. The football structure needs to be looked at. Did they really plan for Amorim to come in? What direction do they want Man United to go in? We need to look at them. That's from KJ. Look, of course. And again, my big thing is this. Part of me wants Amorim to go as well. Let's see who we go for. Let's see if it's a change of direction. If it's a change of direction, then I lose all faith because it just means this new ownership has made the same mistake twice in 3 years as the previous guys did in 12 years. It would be the same mistakes 8-9 times running. Why would anybody put any faith in that working? It's crazy to me. Spotlight should be on Ineos and Barada. Absolutely, it should be where the main focus is. But Mark Goldbridge called this spot on in the summer on Hot Takes on this channel, where he said that everyone in the summer is always on their owners, FSG. Everyone's always on Ineos. Everyone's always on ENIC. The ball starts being kicked, and 90% of fans forget that and go straight to manager in, manager out conversations. I always find that interesting.
No, it is though, Terry. I feel like once the transfer window ends, ultimately managers they know the team that they've got in front of them. So it's now down to the manager to work out and adapt to what they've got and ultimately just get results. And I think the biggest problem with Amorim has been since he's come in, you've been the worst team in the league factually with points won. There was no new manager bounce with, like, so you mentioned Oli. Oli actually had a new manager bounce. He brought the feel good factor back for some time. Amorim has had no feel good factor in 9 or 10 months. He's made it awfully difficult. The one thing you'd expect is just make us hard to beat. He's not making you hard to beat anymore. Like the back end of last season, I think defensively he was actually decent. You don't look like nowhere near that defensively again. So I just think, he's making it very hard to keep people behind him.
Sorry, I just got a message through. I'll respond to that in a minute. Now, listen, I understand that, and I think that all that criticism of Amorim, I'm not defending it at all. My only thing is, again, it's not about Amorim; it's in general. I can't spend a summer or a decade, even, or 2 decades in my case, complaining that the way we're being run is going to lead to our ruin. And then when we're playing badly on the pitch, suddenly ignore the people that are running the football club. That's the thing for me, which I feel we always lose sight of. But I think that's a social media thing. And I know this will sound controversial, but most YouTubers know the algorithm, and complaining about ownership during the season gets you a fraction of the views and the attention that going after managers does. I do think there's a big, by the way, the Sky Sports and that I like it the same. Every now and then if a fan base of any particular club is really losing it with their owners, and normally it's when financial results come out or this is the irony, ticket prices go up. The fans, so if we put our ticket prices up tomorrow, suddenly all the focus will be back on Ineos again. That's when Gary Neville and Sky Sports and TNT Sports will speak about it. As soon as it goes back to and it'll be like, these are the real reason we're in this trouble. Yeah, I agree. Oh, we're all on the same page at last. Hallelujah. Lose the next match. Oh, Amorim's our biggest problem. Yesterday you said it was Ineos. That's kind of my issue. The conversations are very fickle in that way. This here says, regardless of your feelings towards Amorim, whether in or out, a point per game will get him sacked. It's relegation form. Amorim won't make Christmas. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that completely. The results are an important part of this in terms of him keeping his job. I think if you've got a brain, if you've got the ability to think critically, then we also shouldn't ignore the underlying issues. Otherwise, you get swept up in that euphoria of the new manager. Because by the way, everyone will do this. I'll break down and say whether I think the manager is good or bad. And I'm guilty of this. This is where I'm not speaking like I'm perfect. I'm really not. We all get suckered up, and I'm going to try not to do it with the next manager, because there probably will be a next manager this season if things continue like this. Oh, this guy is going to cook. We're coming for you. We're back. We've got to stop all that bollocks as well as a fan base. Like, honestly, I'm not about censoring speech, but like YouTube should start banning us all for doing that. They should put us in the gulag for a month. Like Man United fans, we get a new manager. All of us, Terry Flewers included, keep our mouths shut. And because I do think a lot of the reason some fans online get angry as well is because they just want to be able to banter rivals. I think sometimes I don't even know if they're angry their football team lost. It's like, I can't have a go at anyone today. I do think that's a big part of this, I do. Viewers, listen, hit the like button for us. Please make sure you are subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Moving on from this depressing subject, were Chelsea robbed, George? Were Chelsea robbed on Saturday night? Should this goal have stood, or was it offside?
Yeah, that's I mean, it looks offside. I'm very confused as to why it hasn't been called offside. Like, for me, my biggest problem has been, like, never really been the referees on the pitch. My issue with VAR is VAR itself. I feel like the referees are far too often trying to protect each other. And a decision like this, like, how can it be missed? It's very clear to see the player is offside. We've been told that the offside rule is if the player is involved or near the ball, sort of makes an action to try and win the ball, and it sort of impacts the defending player, then he's now should be called offside. He's in an offside position. Unfortunately, it doesn't get called out. And as we see, I feel like VAR is just getting worse and worse every season. We're 4 games into the season. We can probably point out 7 or 8 times that VAR has got a decision wrong. That's a big error. We're 4 games into the season. We can already point out that many errors. How many errors is it going to be across the year? At this point, there's no point in having VAR if they're not going to get the decisions correct. And look, I'm all for that goal being stood. Don't get me wrong. Taking my bias and putting my bias hat on and rivalries inside. Like, I'm glad that Chelsea didn't get that one, because they were the beneficiary of a good decision last week. And I don't want to hear Chelsea fans complaining about the referees, because when it was against Fulham, then they wasn't complaining when they went their way. But ultimately, the VAR is not being consistent and missing an offside. Like, we can get the subjective opinionated decisions, you know, whether it's a foul, not a foul, cool. But on offside, it's either offside or it's not offside. There's no opinion about it. How can you miss it? It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Yeah, I think like even with the automated VAR or the automated offsides now being brought in, like would that not be picking up that? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. Like that just looks like one that they missed, and even the one in the Spurs game, the Romero goal that was deemed that it was a foul from Van de Ven. Like it doesn't even touch him, and he goes down. It was just like a scuffle in the box. You know what I mean? And it's. I'm doing a series on my YouTube, so I'm counting all the wrong VAR decisions. At the minute, I'm at 7. That'll be 9, and then I have to look at a few more. But like the thing is with PGMOL is they'll come out and they'll say they got like say one wrong. So I think they've said themselves that they've made one error this season, which was last game week. I can't remember which one it was now, but like they're not gonna admit themselves ones that they have gotten wrong. Do you know what I mean? They'll come up with some excuse to say why it was given. Like say the Romero goal, they'll say that was deemed fair and the referee caught it, and they won't like admit themselves that they got that wrong. Do you know what I mean? So when they actually come to admitting to their own errors, they actually don't want to take accountability for it. So you're kind of just caught in this loop where they feel like they're actually making the right decisions, but really they're not, and they won't own up to like the errors of their ways. Like that, even the Chelsea one, like that's gonna. I think I seen someone saying on Ref Watch they said that it wasn't offside, and I'm just like, if it was flicked on and he tried to play the ball, it's offside. There's like, you can be honest and just say it was offside.
There's no in, but a player touched it after.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was a throw in. A Brentford player touched it with his head, and then he went to play the ball. When the ball was touched by the Brentford player, he went to play the ball, and it should have been off.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people have said that. The super chat, I put a tweet out about this. Everyone's like, no, it was a throw-in. When the throw-in's made, Collins heads the ball. And people have got to realize it. Collins heads the ball. You can see from this angle that Atara is offside. It is absolutely clear as day, or at least should be checked. And we haven't seen that they checked it. He then makes a play for the ball, gets in Reece James's way. I haven't seen the close-up replays because they haven't obviously shown them, but a lot of people think he also got a touch on the ball, and then of course it's tapped in at the back post. But people are just ignoring the fact that people are looking at the fact it's a throw-in and whatnot, that there was a header from the Brentford player. And look, as a rival, it's always nice to see rivals lose points and everything else, but we have to keep it 100 with VAR, and it's an absolutely horrendous mistake, one that they tried to brush over very, very quickly as well. Very, very quickly by Sky. I haven't spoken about it. Maybe it will come up. I'm intrigued to see whether it comes up on Ref Watch today, because Ref Watch is also very clever. What Ref Watch does, they call out generally the cases that are controversial in the moment on TV. Does that make sense? So there was 2 seasons ago, there was an offside goal that Palace scored against United, where a Palace player standing in front of Onana, there was a shot. Onana had to move out the way of the player to see. The ball then went in the other direction, went in. VAR didn't get that sort of, VAR's checking. It was just that sort of 10-second delay before the game restarted. Never got mentioned on Ref Watch. It's never been discussed since. And football fans don't even recognize it as a mistake. I've got a feeling, unless we're noisy about this as fans, as football fans, this is one they'll brush under the carpet, because Sky didn't talk about it. The news didn't talk about it. Everyone's just carried on as normal. Does that make sense? It's normally if Sky bring it up as controversy, Ref Watch gets hold of it. And this is one of those they will brush under. And I'm the same as you, Jamie. I've got like a Twitter bookmark thing of all the mistakes they've made. I think I'm up to about 12 or 13 now in other games, including Liverpool's one yesterday. I mean, how on God's green earth this isn't a red card in the modern day game is beyond me. And I know fans will say he wins the ball, but forget that. This isn't 1999 anymore. The rules have changed. And by the way, I'm consistent. People go, Van Dijk's done those before. Yes. And I said those were red cards. If Christian Romero does that, by the way, sent off. Casemiro does that, sent off. And I think that that's the thing for me in this, is that the refereeing standards are so bad. And the Chelsea fans were also part of the issue this weekend. They were so annoyed about how they played, and we'll get into that. They were like, I don't care about the referee decisions. We were bad. I'm like, yeah, that's what for me, that's always what the PGMOL want, is they want people saying you were crap, you didn't deserve a result, therefore let's not speak about bad officiating. again, I don't want to sound horrible, and Chelsea fans were in the moment emotional. Surely we're old enough and grown up enough to have two separate compartmentalized conversations about the same game. It's simple to me, but yeah, it's an absolute robbery of a decision. I'd love to get everyone's views and opinions on that.
Another thing is as well, Terry, that I don't really understand is because like we'll see that the problem's only in England. Because we're going to see the Champions League. It's going to be 16 games this week. And I guarantee you we don't see nearly as many bad decisions. There might be a few controversial fouls and so on, which is naturally what's going to happen. But the offside decisions are so much quicker. All the other decisions are so much quicker. And it seems like it's a lot more clearer, the rules on how we proceed. And you don't see as nowhere near as many mistakes. So it's like the only problem is here in England. It's with our referees. And that's what makes it even a bigger problem.
No, I agree. I agree. There's rules that I don't like in UEFA, like their handball rule is absolutely ridiculous. Unless you're Hannibal, big up Hannibal. Well done, mate. Their handballs are crazy. Some of the decisions you get, I remember one that Newcastle conceded 2 seasons ago. It just wasn't like Maguire yesterday miscontrolled the ball and hit his arm. We all know that ain't a handball. That is in UEFA. But they're consistent with their rules, and that's the one thing I respect about it. I don't like the rule, and it should go. But everybody's penalized for it. In England, I wouldn't be surprised if this weekend somebody gets a handball given against themselves for what Maguire did. Does that make sense? Because we pick and choose and I've said this before, and again, it really upsets some people, but the amount, with enough subjective decisions, you can create an almost objective outcome. In the sense of, right, that's like, for instance, there's no red card given for that tackle by that tackle on McAllister. Okay, you're not giving it as a red. No one should now get a red for those types of tackles.
Yeah, that's the thing. It'll happen next week. Someone will make that type of challenge, and it'll be a red.
Yeah, exactly. And there should be a way of going, well, look, and we as fans, this is why I think it's easier than they're making out. We as fans remember all these things, and we're only like touching on it once a week, twice a month. It's their job. If my only job was to review refereeing decisions to create consistency, by the way, referees a lot of them don't work all week, as in they're not at games every single day. There's this element of, okay, guys, look, these are the red cards we didn't give this weekend. Let's make sure this forthcoming weekend we do. And again, our referee's call on the pitch. No, the referee makes a call on the pitch for red card, and you go, listen, the last 8 times that these tackles have been reviewed by VAR, we have not given a red card. Therefore, that referee's on-field decision should be overturned so that you create consistency. That's how you do it. It's so simple. They just overcomplicate these things. The red card against Spurs, that's a red card. That was shin height lunge. Now, every time that's done, you use that as a reference point. Doesn't matter what the referee's on-field call is. You use that reference point to make sure you come to a very similar and consistent outcome. You make it as objective as possible. Yeah, for me, it's crazy.
The thing is as well, and I think this is why probably the most frustrating thing with VAR is that you kind of lose the flow of the game. So especially, I think with offsides, you can understand it to a certain extent. I know the Chelsea one is frustrating because they obviously missed it. But with offsides, you can kind of say, all right, fair enough. It's kind of black and white. And if it's offside, it's offside. With like the decisions that you're kind of looking at, and say with the McAllister red card, if the referee gives a yellow card in that instance and there's no VAR, you're kind of just like, all right, fair enough. It was a bad challenge. It's okay. And like, you can kind of move on from it. It's because you're kind of consistently looking at it and you're kind of analyzing it non-stop, and it's disrupting the flow of the game, where there's ones where they're like the contentious and maybe looking at like 2 or 3 decisions in the game. It kind of, you're stuttering along and you're not actually getting to enjoy the flow of a football match. And like, you go to obviously games because I think, I seen them talking about, they said on the overlap, you're almost like, you're like a junkie in a sense of like, you're looking for like that kind of next fix of like adrenaline every single week. And it is true, but like when you have VAR kind of constantly stopping that, it's not, you're not getting the same feel in the same way. And I think people obviously, you're always going back and you're thinking of like, say 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was better. And I think I don't like doing that and kind of getting caught in the trap and saying, because I'd say people 20 years ago, like the adults that were watching football then probably said 20 years before that was better. Do you know what I mean? But I think now there's such a big change with VAR that you don't actually get the same enjoyment of it.
I look at it this way. I think they're not going to do the consistency thing like we've all mentioned. Keep goal line technology. I mean, we talk about an offside here, but do it with offsides because it's meant to be an objective decision. And then if you're going to go referee's call, barring violent conduct, a punch or a kick off the ball that a referee hasn't seen, just go to referee's call and just leave it as it was. That way, do that. You know what I mean? Because at least then we know referee's giving it how he sees it in the moment. Where it becomes annoying, as you've said, is that there's no red card against the tackle against McAllister, but this forthcoming weekend, there could be. And yeah, there's always slight differences in the challenges. There absolutely is. But but they're always in the same ballpark. And I agree with that massively. Start a weekly ref performance review show, Terry. I struggle to do that because every time we talk about it, I get letters off of the PGMOL then threatening to sue me. I've had 3 emails in the last year where they try and threaten to sue me over my titles. They're like, you've said that we have confirmed we cheated. I went, no, I didn't. My title is one of my opinions I give in the video. Oh, well, can you show us where? I send it to them and they're like, okay, great. And they're on my back. They watch what we do, you know. They're very, very fragile men that work. You know, it's men because women wouldn't care that way. It's a man thing. Like men are very fragile like that.
Their egos.
They're like, why are you saying we said we cheated Arsenal or you said we cheated Chelsea? Well, no, what I said in the video, I said, I'll say all I heard in that explanation was we cheated Liverpool or we cheated Arsenal, and that's my title. They're like, okay, that's fair. I know it's fucking fair. Like now do one. See you later with your fucking emails.
Do you think the clubs agree with like the fan stance on it though? Because remember when it went to a vote, and Wolves were the only team that wanted to remove it. Like that was, I think, like 18 months ago or so. Maybe it was 12 months ago. Yeah. So like the clubs kind of not that they play into it a little bit, but like they want it to stay. You know what I mean? They've made the decision that they want to keep it around, but like fans just don't seem happy with it. And like at the end of the day, like it is a fans game. Do you know what I mean? As much as the clubs like to think that they have all the power, like if fans stop watching football, they wouldn't have no revenue to generate.
There's probably promises from the VAR and PGMOL every year that they're getting better. They tell us it's going to get better, it's going to improve, and they're probably telling the clubs like, oh, all these changes are going to improve it, it's going to make it good. And the clubs are buying into it, and you can't blame them, to be fair, because you want the right decisions ultimately, innit? And that's the most important thing.
Don't call me a gal here, right? I don't believe in the one club conspiracy. Okay, I don't believe in that. But I do think at the top of the game, when it comes to media, the higher echelons of the club, the owners, the people that run the league, the people that run the PGMOL, the top brasses at the TV companies, there is a big crossover. There was that famous picture of FSG's main top brasses, the Glazers, Woodward, I think Arsenal's lot were there, Gary Lineker was there, all out eating dinner. And I'm not saying you're free to go out and eat dinner with who you want, but a very interesting group of people that I suppose as fans on the base of it, you wouldn't think Gary Lineker was friends with all those people. But then you look at it and it poses a question, okay? I'm not saying Gary Lineker's in bed with them and protects them directly, but the amount of times I've heard the Gary Linekers of this world go, but the Glazers do spend money, and the amount of times the TV companies protect the PGMOL, they might call out the odd question here and there, but overall, whenever the heat really gets up against these guys, the owners of clubs, who are the ones that do the votes, the TV companies, the media, and the Premier League, they all do pull together, if that makes sense. You always get to this point. You know, when the PGMOL last season was under massive pressure, Howard Webb went on a fucking UK tour. The podcasts, the ex-pros, and there'd be 20 minutes of challenging the bad mistakes. The rest of it was all these great stories about how they're all mates and and the funniest part about all those shows is they actually revealed things that were far more damning and worrying about refereeing that no other media outlet picked up on. 3 referees have been on the overlap, 2 or 3 have been on the overlap, and all revealed that biases exist against clubs. When fans chant at referees or when managers shout at them, that all these refs are admitting that they held it against that club for a period of time. And I'm like, how has that not become front page news that they admit that they have these biases? And what it was really about, what did make the papers was a story about how a dog ran on a pitch once. You sit there and like, that is orchestrated. You know what I'm saying? It's like the media are being told, they're all in a little gang. No, we're not going to run with that. Because you're right, it's crazy. Like you've got to just wise up sometimes and look at the way these things are printed. Martin here says it should be on the field refs that ask for VAR to be used. That empowers the on-field ref. But why would he? Well, unless he's confused. I think the way it started was perfect. I loved it. It was referee gave all the decisions on field, and then they did re-ref the game, essentially. They didn't like the wording, but they looked at it and went, you haven't given a penalty. Now, there was contact, give the penalty. And they did. And I liked it. And then they went to this ref's call, and I think it's been shit the last two. Since Howard Webb's come in, gone to pot. It really, really has. There's a super chat here for Jamie. It says, "Hi, Jamie. Remember me? I'm so happy to finally bump into you on YouTube after many years. How are you doing? I really miss you."
I don't know, Kate Miller.
You know what? I think I know this is a troll that's in loads of chats. It's just got a new account. I think it's got a new account.
Is it Donna Cullen?
Oh,
Is
Donna.
It's
Donna,
definitely
yeah.
Donna. It's definitely Donna. That's what I think. The way that it's written, because she always does this. Hi,
I met the person.
Oh, did they come on live?
But I saw they left their camera on backstage.
It's a man.
They asked me not to reveal what they.
I know it's a man. He's come on. He sent like voice notes and stuff to people.
But also the voice note I heard, and then the way they spoke when they were on camera, the voice changed, bruv.
Yeah, he's got a voice changer. He's got a voice changer on his stream. Like it sounds like pixelated and like robotic type of thing. It's weird, but shout out Donna, man. Always support.
Big up yourself. Big up yourself.
Donna, start sending me some super chats, will you?
As much as I hate it, Amorim is proving people who have the 4-3-3 fetish right. I hate letting him go mid-season. It seems inevitable. Do you know what? This is the thing, though. This is what I think a lot of this has become with Man United fans. Everything's about fighting for their ideology and being right. And that's probably what's annoying me the most, in the sense of, and people could label that at me as well. I'm very aware of it. I'm more on, well, what's the solution? Going 4-3-3 isn't what's going to fix the football club in itself. And this is what may happen as well, Adele. Let's say we continue in this path, continue with the recruitment, continue in the right direction, but we change the head coach. You got to remember, Wilcock has very publicly said that we're not buying players purely to play three at the back. We're buying players that can play different formations. It's already been documented. Areola comes in, he plays, I think, we go 4-2-3-1, we go 4-3-3, and we start winning. What you'll get is, see, I knew it was all just about the manager. But what they'll ignore is that most of the clubbers continue moving in the same direction. Then we start adding more and more players that are better. And of course, changing manager will be a part of this. But again, we should not be dragged in by these wonder drug merchants. You know, you see those people recently that are clearly they've either had their stomach sleeved, or they're taking the NHS jabs, but yet they're advertising a pill from Holland & Barrett that's made them lose all that weight. That's what Man United fans are doing with this 4-3-3 obsession, or the manager's the problem. They're having a sleeve done, they're getting liposuction, they're getting jabs, they're eating lettuce, only drinking water and going gym. But then what they're selling you is they're going, this pill, this isn't a pill, by the way, this is some oil for my head, right? This pill is what's made me lose 25 stone. Buy it now. They're liars. They're liars. So it's an oversimplification of a much bigger problem, my friend. These people are called reductionists. Oh, hang on. I am not Donna. I'm Kate, new CCO of Tottenham Hotspur. I'm new board member of Spurs, replacing Donna Cullen. Oh, interesting.
Listen, with Daniel Levy gone, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in some weirdo to replace him.
Oh, that'll kill me, man.
United as a brand isn't a football club. This is what I meant about Danger being a commercial club. If United fans from the other side are calling the right thing. Do you know what's really interesting as well? I think what's very, very important to remember about all of these situations and all of these conversations is we were run very badly for the past 20 years, but fell apart after Fergie left. I think what's important to remember as Man United fans is maybe we've got worse before we get better, because we actually are unearthing even more things internally that were wrong with the club that we didn't even know about, that have never been made public. So there is that to look at as well. But again, it's hard to have those conversations because those people they'll mention the 4-3-3 fetish guys. It's like, no, don't defend Amorim. That's not about Amorim. It's about my football club. The problem is you can't have honest conversations because people see it as, why are you defending what I hate? And it's not as simple as that, man. I used to be... we've done that super chat there. The PGMOL and VAR are the same people. Howard Webb is in charge. Yes, we know they're the same. Navia said, Ruben near enough said what I was saying about the club, about United. when I was talking about that as a whole. Yeah, there is a comment from him. I haven't actually read it because I switched off last night, where he basically has said there's a lot of things that have gone on at the club that none of you have any idea about. Yeah, again, that's why I actually think there's a comment that says go for Nuno. This is why, again, the same guys that want Amorim out are not going to like this. Part of me actually thinks United might need to go for a Southgate or a Nuno or a Thomas Frank of that level, not actually Thomas Frank. Managers who I think can get the best out of a very poor squad for a period in time until we've got better financial situations to build a much better squad. I think we have, we are sort of, what is the, champagne taste, but lemonade money? That's kind of our issue here. Champagne taste, lemonade money. I might have said that saying wrong, but that's how we're behaving at the minute. Spurs went wrong doing this. Jose's and Conte's were no good because what they wanted, Spurs wouldn't and couldn't deliver at that time. So there's this element of, oh no, I can't do this. You ever seen like big pros drop down levels? Sol Campbell lasted a few weeks at Barnet or Grimsby or whatever too. They go into those clubs and it's like, fucking hell. But what they're used to being playing around versus what they've now got is hard. The adaptation's hard. Maybe United do need to aim at this point, but United fans ain't ready for that conversation. They're still, that's what I mean by the Amorim outers, the staunch guys. They truly just believe we're one decent manager away from being back in title races. And why it's hard to side with them is I can't push their own. It's like anything, kid. Like, think about politics, right? We've all done this. If you hear a policy read out, you might go, oh, I agree with that. Then they tell you which political party's behind it. You go, hang on. I can't push that because every person, whether you agree with them overall or not, will say one thing at least you agree with. You boys must have heard this be said 100 times. I don't like Piers Morgan, but I agree with what he said there. I don't like Katie Hopkins, but I agree with what she said there. You always hear this. It's because it doesn't matter who the person is. There are some things they believe in that you believe in. That's life. That's because there's balance in this world, right? And Man United fans do this a lot. They want Amorim out, but their solutions are often wrong. And I think we should focus more on the solutions. LFC members revoked feeling sorry for them. Oh, he's saying you shouldn't feel sorry for Man United. That's at you. That's Sean. He's saying you shouldn't feel sorry. But there we go. He's the nice guy. You're absolutely right, T. Both Ollie and Ten Hag tried playing 4-3-3, and it hasn't brought us success we hoped. What this club really needs is time and patience for things to turn around, and I couldn't agree more. It does, but a manager's got to get more wins than he's had. Because even a team that's in a relegation battle from day one wants more wins than this. That's where there's got to be a balance in the conversation, to be fair with you.
Just on that, Ten Hag did bring you the success, just not the sustainability. That's all it was.
Mm.
Yeah, he brought a success in terms of a couple of trophies, but I don't look at that as Man United being fixed. I look at that as a bonus to a broken situation. Like for me, being fixed is challenging for the league title regularly. That's why I said before I would swap both of Ten Hag's trophies now for what Arsenal have had in the last 3 years. And the reason being is I think a team that's challenging for league titles over a medium to longer period of time is far more likely to win more major trophies than what United were doing. And the proof's in the pudding because we're now in a relegation battle. Great, we have those 2 trophies, but look at the direction we're going in as a club. I'd rather be going the other way. If I had the choice between the 2 scenarios, I'd rather switch it round than have those 2 trophies, but then maybe get relegated. I can't, because being up near the top and challenging for the league title, for me, over a longer period of time, being at that level will yield you more success. And I know I'm right, because who wins more over a 20-year period? Liverpool and City or relegation teams? like who will say what I'm saying is mad until you actually take it to the nth degree, and it is right. Please, can you check Spurs' official statement on me? Oh, you're loving it today. You're loving it. Nav also said, sorry, we've done that super chat there. George, big win for Spurs this weekend. Do you feel like you bounced back well?
Yeah, man. Bounced back very well. Good performance. Professional performance, what I'd call it. It wasn't amazing. We didn't blow them out of the water, but ultimately we got the job done, scored 3 goals, 3 pretty good goals. And we're starting to take we took a leaf out of Arsenal's book, set piece FC, as soon as we scored, pointing over to the set piece coach, we might start seeing murals of him in and around Spurs, who knows, but Yeah, man. Happy to finally get that win against West Ham, because I think it's been 6 years since Jose was in. It was the last time we beat them at the London Stadium, so it's been a while. Tend to be a difficult place for us to go, typically, just because I suppose we've had a few bad years, but also London derby just it hasn't been the best. But yeah, no, professional performance. Just happy with the way that we played. A couple of the young boys coming in, Bergvall and Sarr, just doing what we expect of them, and we're just showing that we now have that depth, because I think that was the first game where I've actually had confidence knowing I looked at my bench and I was like, okay, we've actually got options off the bench. We've got quite a few different players, different profiles. We know that we can change things if need be, and look, it's West Ham at the end of the day. It's one of those ones. West Ham are probably going to be a relegation side this year. If not, they're going to be in and around those positions. So these are the types of performances you expect, and results, really, like a 3-0 win should be normal business against this type of team.
Yeah, I agree. I said a few weeks ago, I think Romero and Van de Ven are, in terms of a partnership, are probably one of the best in the world. Like, I really rate them that highly. I think when you think about it, it's probably like Van Dijk and Kanate, Gabriel Saliba, and then you're probably looking at Van de Ven and Romero. Like, Van de Ven obviously got on the score sheet. Romero got an assist. Do you know what I mean? They're like, even ball playing, they're unbelievable. I just think, obviously, I know Ange had a lot more problems, but you do think if Van de Ven and Romero had been fit for, say, a full season, where they could have potentially been a lot higher. The fact that they obviously picked up so many injuries, and I think that came from probably his style of play, but. Yeah, I just think they're so good, and they showed it again yesterday. I do, and it's just Thomas Frank is, and Terry, you were alluding to it, but obviously United potentially bringing in a manager like that, he's just going to get so much out of those players. Like Bergvall, I know was kind of in and out of the team last year, but I think he looked quality again yesterday. And obviously they've bought well with Kudus, Simmons, players that'll just add to the team. Like Solanke, I know has a bad injury, but they'll get those players back then as well. Do you know what I mean? They do have the squad depth, and I think. I said it as well at the start of the season when we were talking about potential managers of the season. I do think Thomas Frank will be in with a shout for manager of the season. I do think he'll do really well with that team. Potentially could win a trophy. And then I think they will get Champions League as well.
And it goes. Do you know one thing is? It goes to what Terry said earlier about his own manager. For a long time, a lot of the players under Ange just weren't performing at the level. And I think, having a new manager come in, that Frank, who is a coach first type of manager, you're already seeing just the level of those players step up. You mentioned Romero. I think Romero has shown the quality that he's always had, but it's the consistency now. Three clean sheets in 4 games is huge. We saw 6 clean sheets across the whole of last season. So now already have half of those 4 games in. It shows you the structure that we got at the back is a lot better. We're conceding way less chances. And I wouldn't be surprised if Romero and Van de Ven get a full season together. They'll start to really get their recognition this year, man, because they've been class.
Yeah. Look, I do a lot of research into this stuff. I'm intrigued by it. You look at the managers under FSG. Dalglish to begin with. I think Dalglish was one of their first managers.
Yeah. Was Dalglish? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Dalglish helped settle the ship after Hicks and Gillette and Hodgson obviously being the manager. Then Brendan Rodgers comes in and does sort of 3 years, and for the first time, one of the first times in 30 years, gets you into title races. Then you move on from Brendan Rodgers to Jurgen Klopp, still a couple of years of building as a club and with him, and then you go into a great period, and now Arne Slot's taken over and just maintained that. And you look at that and you go, right, it's a club with a structure and a plan. It was started with, Dalglish was a legendary manager in his day, but well past his sell-by date when you brought him in, but you needed that person to steady the ship. Ironically, very much like what Ollie did for Man United in those times. He should never have really been our long-term manager. It should have been that first 6 months, maybe a year, get sort of things ticking over, and then we should have gone for a better manager. But you now look back, hindsight's lucrative, but you learn from it. And you got better managers each time. I don't actually think Slot is better than Klopp, but he's taken over Liverpool in a much better situation than Klopp inherited, but you were building towards it. You look at Man City from when their takeover happened, Hughes into Mancini, Pellegrini, and then Pep as an example. Spurs, for me, messed up massively when Poch went, and they changed direction in everything they did, and it didn't work. It didn't work for them. It fell apart, and they spent 3 years, 4 years building up this team built for pragmatists, and then they went to Big Ange. No wonder when Big Ange was pragmatic in a handful of games, they were good. That's what the squad's built for. And Frank is perfect for them. It's a level down from the star names of the Contes and the Jose Mourinho's, but it's someone that's going to look at this good to very good squad and be able to get the best out of them. And yes, they were beaten by Bournemouth, and Bournemouth probably should have scored more than one goal. But let's not forget, Bournemouth are a fantastic football team at the moment. That's just going. People are seeing the name Bournemouth and going, ha ha ha. Bournemouth have the. If it wasn't for I know that you end up scoring 2 late goals, but they almost came back from 2-0 down to get a point at Anfield. Liverpool, the best team in the country. They're a very good team. They could beat any side in the Premier League this year. There's no. That for me doesn't undo what I've seen in the first 5 games under Thomas Frank, and I saw it again this weekend. Solid and hard to beat. The centre-back pairing in this system they're going to fly. The hamstrings aren't going to go as regularly. They're more tight and compact at the right times. You've got a lot of very good attacking players in that team, and still more to return. Spurs are going to be very difficult to beat on a consistent basis this season. They're going to win a lot of points. And Saturday, yes, West Ham. Listen, we've got Wolves and West Ham. We need one more team at that level to make sure Man United don't get relegated. So I hope that continues. But yes, Spurs look very, very good. And my prediction for Spurs under Thomas Frank, I wish my predictions for Man United came true, but I knew they'd be this good because I rate Thomas Frank. And Man United fans who turned their nose up on him, he'd be doing a brilliant job with where we are right now with our current squad, because he understands that adaptation is needed, and we need someone like that because he makes you hard to beat first, and then he will utilize what you have in attack to score you goals and create opportunities. And yeah, fantastic manager. Spurs look excellent, and I think you're in a shout for a top 5 position and a Champions League spot this year. I really believe that. You look very, very good for me, including the PSG game, where very unlucky in the end not to walk away with the Super Cup. So, yeah, Thomas Frank is a top manager, and I'm glad he's got an opportunity. Spurs are a big club. They're gargantuan compared to Brentford. No disrespect, but to get a chance at a proper big club and prove himself, I'm glad on a level for him that he's doing so well in that regard. Staying in North London, Arsenal also had a bounce back. They lost the game. There's a lot of people that came on our show last week predicting Forest might do something, take points off them, the big Ange effect. But Arsenal looked, Jamie, very good at the weekend.
Yeah, they did. Like, I like Arsenal. I know I criticize Arteta. It's more because I have like a big expectation of them in terms of like I think they can do so much more, and that's why like I felt they had an opportunity to kind of take the game to Liverpool, and I was frustrated more the fact that like from a footballing perspective that they didn't do that. They didn't take their opportunity because like Liverpool conceded 4 goals in their first 2 games. Like if they had went there with a bit of bravery, they would have got chances against us. And I think like when I know they're playing at home, they're playing against a weaker opposition, but like they dominated Forest. Do you know what I mean? Like Madueke looked really good. Eze, obviously, we know the quality he has. Gyökeres as well. I think Gyökeres is going to be one of those strikers that these 3 goals now, right, in 4 games. He's played at probably 2 of the hardest grounds that he'll probably play at all season. Against, like, even like Arsenal didn't perform against United, and then United played well that day. Then they go to Liverpool, which is notoriously one of the hardest grounds to play at in the league. He'll score a bucket loads of goals. I don't think he's going to be heavily involved in build-up, similar to almost like Haaland in terms of like how they play. The most important thing Arsenal want to do is create chances for him because he will be there to get those goals. Just the ones little tap-ins at the back post. He'll create opportunities for himself once or twice, but he's not that type of player in the sense of he's just someone that will score those loads of goals. And when you think about Arsenal, this is what I keep on people saying, and I've seen it on social media. Like he was brought in to win Arsenal the big games. Arsenal issue didn't come from the big games. They went 1,000 days without losing to the big 6. Their issue wasn't those games. It was the games against your West Hams, the Aston Villas. Those are the games where they needed someone to convert their chances and get them over the line in those games. And he, in the Portuguese league, was notorious at not performing against the bigger teams, but against the teams that were maybe in the bottom half. And that's what he's going to be able to do. He's going to be able to finish those chances that Arsenal can potentially create. So obviously bringing in Eze will obviously help with that as well. I think Odegaard going off, he maybe hasn't been at the races the last, say, kind of 18 months, but they have players now that will be able to come in and help with that. And I just think if you go through it, I said it before. The big thing with Arsenal last year was they had a better defense than Liverpool, but they didn't score as much goals. They had 17 goals less than Liverpool. That is the issue that they need to obviously catch up with Liverpool on. Liverpool obviously adding Isak, they're going to have a lot more attacking threat, and they'll score freely. But defensively, they're not as good as Arsenal. And if they can figure it out, it's going to be a very, very close title race. So that's what I do think. I appreciate Arsenal as a good team. I think they get a lot of criticism, but they are a good team.
Yeah, and they are. And to be fair, this weekend, they just proved it yet again. It's performance that you expect, to be fair. You know, seeing Ange's first game was no surprise with the way that they set up. You know, first half was a little bit conservative, but in that second half, they opened themselves up. And we saw, like you mentioned, Terry, that literally within 30 seconds into the first half, they already started the high press, pushed all the players forward, and forget that Eze's running in behind. One long ball over the top and it's killed them. And I saw that all last season. So I generally wasn't surprised with the way that played out. And yeah, you are right, Jamie. Like, as much as, you know, as rival fans, we want to cook Gyökeres and say, yeah, he's not going to score in the big games. Arsenal don't necessarily need him to score in the big games. It was always these games when they dropped points against Everton, Nottingham Forest, West Ham last season. Fulham, they're the games where they're not winning and they just needed their striker to finish a chance where Havertz is missing 3 or 4. I think Gyökeres is going to end up finishing it. So he did look a bit more like himself in that game. You're seeing him link up with Eze, and they seem to have pretty good link up as well. So he's building into himself. He's starting to get a little bit more comfortable, and I think we'll start to see him sort of scoring some more of those better goals rather than just the tap-ins that we saw at Sporting Lisbon. He did have that chance where he hit the post and it was a good little 1-2 work his way around, running off of Eze. He looks good. He looks good. He looks like he's building into himself. And like I said there, the difference now is the depth that they have. Because when Odegaard went off, when Eri come on, and there was no drop-off in the level of performance for them. So they've now got those players that can just come in, slot in. And also, I heard you say it earlier about Madueke. I think he had a good game, Terry. I do think he had a good game. But also, I have started to see revisionism now from Arsenal fans, because we remember, Terry, very well when Don used to talk about Madueke like this. And he used to talk about how Madueke is going to beat his man. He's going to work him down the wing. And I remember he used to go as far to say that he's a better dribbler than Saka and so on. I'm now seeing the Arsenal fans flip the narrative to be Madueke is so different to Saka on that wing. What Madueke brings is a bit more energy, a bit more getting at his fullback. And I'm like, oh, so this is what Don used to say. And now everyone used to clown him. And I'm like, Madueke is good. Madueke is good at doing what he does. He'll beat his man. He's a bit of a, what do they call it, 1v1 demon. He's good in the 1v1. He's very good. But it's that final pass after that. And I think if you actually look at the stats, it's the chances created. He doesn't create enough chance. He doesn't make that final ball good enough and probably won't get on the score sheet or the assists. But also, to counteract my own argument, I don't think he needs to do that at Arsenal because he has better players around him and more creative players. So he can beat his man and then just pass it back to Timber, who's going to whip in across and they're going to score. Whereas at Chelsea, that's not happening. So as much as I don't think he needs to add that part to his game to be effective for Arsenal, I do think he's doing the same thing as what he done at Chelsea.
Yeah, I agree with that. Listen, Don's my bro, and I know he'll take this in the spirit that it is meant in, and that is Don's issue was he'd only ever make half a statement in the sense of he used to do it with Martinelli and Mudryk. He'd never say the words Mudryk is better, but he'd only ever talk. But everything when it come to any attribute or any part of the game, he'd always put Mudryk better, and it was like, so you think he's better? Well, I'm not saying that directly. I think that was always the issue with Don. He would never just make a full. He'd never sort of complete the statement. It was always, okay, that's a lot of great stuff you said that Madueke can do. Do you actually think he's better than Saka, though? No, I just think he's more effective in 99.99999% of the game. But I wouldn't say he's better overall. When you go, I don't understand. That's a little bit of that with Don. And I'm exaggerating slightly the wind up my bro. But yeah, I think Madueke's looked great. Not just for Arsenal. I thought in the England games he looked brilliant too. And that's because he's being direct. There does need to be more output.
Consistency as well. Like you can, do you know what I mean? You can play well for 2 games, but you need to be doing it consistently, and that's what Arsenal need.
No, I agree, and that's got to come. And I think Cal here, big up Cal, hope you well, bruv, says I'm shameless. I've always believed in Madueke. I remember our calls in the summer, and I doubted this as a deal, but I do remember him having a good period early last season where he got a hat trick against Wolves, and he looked like a player. It is about the continuity, it is about the consistency before people start saying he's absolutely right and absolutely wrong. But if we've seen in the opening 4 games, because I even thought he was good in a couple of his earlier matches, and I said it on streams, and people were like, no, he weren't. I'm like, it was a constant threat. And for me, when I look at wide players, there was something that was said by the Argentina coach recently about Garnacho. They asked him why Garnacho is not in the squad. And he said, because we were playing a game. I don't remember if they were leading or winning or losing, but it's irrelevant. And he said, we came on and we said, listen, Alejandro, just run at the fullback. Don't care if you lose every duel. Just keep running at him and trying to take him on. Came on, run at the fullback, got tackled. Then all he did for the rest of the time he was on the pitch is sort of square the fullback up and pass it backwards. And he's like, no, we want someone that is just going to run at that fullback. I like that. And maybe it's because it feeds into how I like football. So maybe I'm being biased in that regard. But it was my issue with Sancho. It's like, bro, I know you lost the first 2 attempts to beat your man, but now you're not trying to beat him. Just keep running at the fucker all game. At some point, you're going to do him and you're going to be an on goal. But if you just keep recycling it, it's a guarantee. What's the expression? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take in life. And that's what I like about what Madueke is doing so far. He just goes at his man. And I like players that when it isn't working, they keep attempting the right things. Xavi Simon got a lot of stick at the weekend because he tried that reverse pass and it went to no one. I'm like, no. That pass was right. A teammate should have been there.
Yeah.
I would be saying to the team, I'll be doing the analyzing this morning, the video, and I'd be saying, listen, boys, what Xavi did there was perfect. You lot have got to wait for that pass and you've got to be there for it. He's got to play it blind. That's why it would catch a team out. He can't be, if he looks, they're going to know what he's going to do. You've got to get it right. Noni Madueke, I'd be saying to him, and I'd be using him as an example now to Martinelli and co. You just keep running at your fullback. He might tackle you 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Could be on the 6th attempt that you're through on goal, cut back, and we score. If every time you just pass the ball back and recycle it, you make it easy for the teams in the low block. You make it easy for them to sit in and be narrow and hard to beat. That element's good. But yeah, the output needs to come and he needs to be more consistent. But yeah, I think he looks excellent. And you mentioned Gyökeres. I think the criticism on Gyökeres has been ridiculous. That he looks like he's running in cement boots and all of this. He's just a big, strong lad. I think I know that some of it is banter. We're in the banter economy, and I get that. But I think a lot of these young ones just don't remember what proper big number 9s were like. They all look like that. All of them look like that. None of them. Every now and then you get like a Haaland where he hasn't just got the strength. He's really fast as well. But he's a very good player, and he's going to score a lot of goals. At the end of the day, it's 3 goals in 4 Premier League games. You're right. He didn't do too much at Anfield, but nor did Ekitike, who was at home. Like, you actually look at their numbers on the day and watch the game back. Both defenses played well and nullified strikers. And I was saying this yesterday about Haaland. I was very annoyed that Haaland's got 8 goals in the Manchester derby, and he's equaled Rooney and Aguero's record. And I'm annoyed. I think he's a great striker, Haaland. I hate the way he's slagged off. But he's broke that record or equaled that record in 3 years because the difference between Man United and City now is so vast. They're so much better than we are, typically speaking. But even having that been said, you know, we could do the banter, or what war a trophy, as people call it, because the one, you know, he didn't score in a cup final against us where we won a trophy. We could do that pointless, childish banter. But from my perspective, as great as Haaland is, he'll still score in less Manchester derbies than he scores in. So yes, he has 8 goals. 5 of them have come in 2 games. But that's because it's normal for top teams, or derbies in that case, we're not a top team anymore, to nullify strikers. Torres is famed for always cooking Vidic. He only did it in 2 of the 13 games he played against him. In the other 11 games, locked down.
Yeah, but those games were bad.
Yeah. Didn't beat us to any trophies that year, but you know what I mean? We can play that game, can't we? We can play that game. But from my point of view, I hear you. And on those days, he did him. But most of the time, when top strikers play against top teams, more often than not, they don't do too much. Henry, this man scored so many goals for Arsenal, but I remember many, many games against big teams, especially away from home, where he did very little in the game. That wasn't because he was dead.
Never scored in the final as well, isn't it?
Never scored in a final. And it doesn't mean that these players... No, it's Haaland right now. And I just get annoyed at it. Not because you shouldn't have banter, but it's when that banter then seeps into real criticism, because we're setting standards that can't be achieved. And standards are a big talking point in football at the minute, but we're setting a level and an expectation that's utterly ridiculous, and it's only going to leave fans being angry. And you have to ask, what is the motivation of trying to leave fans angry all the time? You know, Man United fans are doing it with Le Mans. We need someone to come in. No mistakes now, no mistakes. our three best goalkeepers of the Premier League era made mistakes every season. We cannot have a standard for a goalkeeper where no mistakes is the low bar minimum expectation, because all you're going to do is end up being angry. We have to be honest. We have to remember what football is really about. And I bet if you went and looked at it, I bet you can find multiple world-class strikers in the last 40 years in the Prem who have had dozens of games away at the big clubs for the time, because the big clubs change or the good teams change, where they didn't score goals, they didn't get a sniff. It isn't abnormal. The fact that the mainstream media has pushed it as abnormal three games into the season, I just think he's bad for football, bad for the football conversation overall. It really is for me. What are we going to... Ekitike started off by scoring goals. He now went 2 games in a row without doing very much. Imagine that was the other way around. It's just weird to me. Very, very weird indeed, for that kind of rhetoric to be pushed. It's me. Thank you very, very much for the super chat. Oh, no, sorry, for gifting out a membership. I don't know who got it, but thank you very much for that. Or some Nav here says, or some form of fan voice and control. The 50 game plus 1 German thing I know would be good. Oh, about the way clubs are run.
Yeah, we'll never get that now.
Never gonna happen.
The billionaires are in charge now. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to give up control for less money.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not going to. Are we going to raise £1 billion to buy the clubs back? Never going to happen, man. Never going to happen. Terry, we didn't have Saliba, Rice, Odegaard, and Saka. Yeah, that was a great sign for Arsenal as well, that they had players out and rotated and still won. Wait till Le Mans starts. The fan base will demand the return of Onana, and I am Amorim in till the 13th of October, which by time we're 18th place will be secured. Thank you, Ola, who is a Liverpool fan, I believe. Nav here says, this is why I asked the hardest questions, because of what happened to my club. My club was in danger, and United fans, like it or not, need to do it. The rivalry and protection of our clubs, fight for your clubs. And then goes on to say, Premier League fans should start the 50+1. My honest opinion is the last 10 years in the English pyramid is in danger just from the eye. Fans don't have a say anymore. It's changed my view on football. The only way this could potentially happen is if the regulators get enough control to force it, and that's the only option. The only people that could actually force this is the government, because the government can just do it once essentially and say, well, you've got to sell a percentage to the fans and give them a vote for a set price, or we'll sanction you and take the club, because they're the only way it could be done. But that being said, these billionaires are so rich and powerful. They probably have so many hands in the economy in the UK. Are they going to do it? Probably not, my friend. Liverpool, though, 4 wins, Jamie. 4 wins in 4 games from last-minute goals, basically. You must be chuffed.
It's what we do. It is what we do. Yeah, listen, I think Liverpool's performances this season haven't been 100% there, but I'd be more worried the fact that they're not there and we're still winning than I would be that the fact that we're not performing. Do you know what I mean? Because it's only a matter of time before the team clicks, and you're probably adding one of the best, if not maybe some people's choices, that he is the best striker in the league in terms of all round, in Isaac. So yeah, listen, I think even Gary Neville was saying on commentary, he left to go up to the box. It was 90 minutes, and he's like, oh, by the time I get out of the elevator, they will have scored. He comes out and he goes, one of the Man City fans, Liverpool have scored. It's just what we do right now. It's just they have that kind of inkling that they're going to continue to score. Do you know what I mean? They're never going to give up belief. And listen, Burnley, I think they put up a valiant effort. I've seen people criticizing the way that they play. Like, what do you expect them to play? Like Southampton last year, when they come out and try and play football and they get absolutely smashed every week. Like, they need to play and adapt to the teams that they're playing. They're not going to be able to play stylistic football against Liverpool because they'll get killed. And they made it difficult for us. But in the end, a little bit of luck or a little bit of a mistake from Hannibal kind of gets us over the line, and you take that sometimes. So, yeah, like last week against Arsenal, it was a little bit of quality that got us there. This week, it's a little bit of luck, but you can't keep relying on that. And I think most Liverpool fans will want to see an improvement in performances, but I think naturally that will come. And it's only a matter of time before it does come. So happy 4 wins from 4.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it will continue. I don't know about you, George. I think it will continue. I think they'll get better. Does that mean they won't keep scoring last-minute goals, but they're just going to get better?
They're still settling. We've seen this obviously with Kirkes. He's not really. To be fair, I think Kirkes has been poor for Liverpool in Liverpool. I ain't really seen him reach anywhere near the levels of Bournemouth. And I think it's just a lot of the players. Frimpong's obviously been in and out of the team, had an injury and so on. So like they're still getting used to each other, still building chemistry. And if you can show that winning mentality whilst you're doing this, it's only going to get better once the team actually gels properly. So look, this is the Liverpool way. Even when I was watching the game, I was with Arsenal fans and we're all sitting there going, they're obviously half celebrating. They're going, oh, 10 minutes to go, 0-0. And I'm like, wait, it's Liverpool, you know. They're probably going to score a goal. Salah's going to pop up with something. And what? Hey, lo and behold, they get a penalty in the 93rd minute. So, and it wasn't a penalty that you can even question. It was a handball. So it's one of those ones. Like, I know Arsenal fans want to sit here and paint the narrative that it's like, oh, there's cracks. Like, they're not been that good. They have to win in the last 10 minutes. But if you can get a win in the last 10 minutes, 4 games in a row, it shows mentality. So, yeah, man, I think it's only going to get better throughout the season for them.
Yeah, no.
I see the comment there just talking about Wirtz. Can we talk about Wirtz now? And Jamie, use the exact same logic reasoning you did with Bruno and at the start of the show. And listen, if you're looking at like people, they kind of handpicking performances or like minutes in games and saying Wirtz was good for 45 minutes. And I think at the end, you're going to want to see GA because of the amount of money that you spent on him. But the most important part for Liverpool right now is obviously the result. And similar to what we said about Bruno, you want him closer to goal, impacting the game. I think I said Bruno is one of the best creators in the Premier League since he's come. But I just think with Wirtz, obviously you want him impacting the game more and more. And they're kind of bringing up stats saying like he's making the most runs forward and stuff like that. Like, I don't really care about that. Do you know what I mean? I want to see him getting involved in the game. And similar to what you were saying there, Terry, with this Liverpool team are maybe trying to figure each other out a little bit more. I think that's what they are doing. I think Wirtz is trying to figure out like what actually is his role in the team, because we don't want them making bombing on runs into the box. You know what I mean? You don't want them as that kind of late running midfielder. You want them someone picking up the ball and finding the likes of Isak, the likes of Ekatike, the likes of Salah. But he's not really doing that right now. And I think he's just trying to figure his way into the team. But 100%, you can criticize him and say like he needs to be doing more. I think when he's on the ball, sometimes he's maybe making the wrong decision with the pass. And there's nothing wrong with, like, as a Liverpool fan, you can criticize him, you can say that. But I do think it's a matter of time before that clicks. I just think the quality that he does have, you can see it in glimpses. It's just that it's not clicking for him right now. But I think that will come with time. And if you want to criticize him 100%, like, I think I do want to see more of him. Like, even in the group chats that I'm in and we're talking about during the game, we're doing my post-match and stuff, I do say, like, I need to see more from Wirtz when he's getting on the ball, making the right decision, which right now he's not doing.
Wirtz just needs time, and I'm someone that's just, you know, it's not my place to say it. I'm giving him time. I'm sure Liverpool fans will. I do understand where rival fans get annoyed though at Sky, because they did this with Darwin and Jamie Carragher pushed it when he started off pretty poorly, and it was. Do you remember the whole? Oh yeah, but he's captain chaos and he causes problems and he runs all over. Well, I think people sometimes view it that, especially, again, I say Sky, Jamie Carragher obviously pushes this and the producers push it. There is this element of where's that energy for other big signings who maybe are not getting the numbers and the on the ball performances that might also have good running stats and good, you know, good progressive passes and good entries into the box. I think some people get a little frustrated at the, you know, Arsenal fans will look at it and say Gyökeres has been ripped into after getting 3 goals in 4 games. Because of his performances away at 2 of the hardest clubs historically for Arsenal, but yet Wirtz is getting all the positive stats put up and time needed. I understand where football fans can get frustrated, and it isn't really at Wirtz and it isn't Wirtz and it isn't really at Liverpool. I think it's at the way the media sort of protects some players and attacks others. And I would remember back to Darwin Núñez thinking nobody else's record striker signing would get protected and get to, oh yeah, but he's captain chaos and we love him for it. They'd all be ridiculed for their lack of goals, performances, professionalism. So I do get why I do get why rivals get frustrated, because they just, I suppose they just want to see Liverpool's players and United's players and Newcastle's players treated like their players get treated, I suppose.
Yeah. But to say, like, similar to what I'm saying about Gyökeres, like, I don't agree with the treatment that he's getting in the media. Like, he scored 3 goals in 4 games and he's played at 2 of the toughest grounds away. So, like, I'm saying he shouldn't be getting that criticism. And similar to what I'm saying about Wirtz is that, like, I understand like rival fans saying that like we should be maybe giving him more criticism, but at the same time, you can maybe look at his performances and say, yeah, there have been some good parts, some bad parts, and like at the end of the day, like these are two new players that have come from like leagues that are predominantly, they're worse leagues in comparison to the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? The level that the Premier League is so high, and I think the criticism with Wirtz is probably maybe the physicality. I've seen it there, the physicality and the quickness of the league, and 100% that could be something that he might take a little bit of time to adjust to. But it's 4 games in, and I'm probably going to be. It's such a small sample size to be criticizing a player for. Do you know what I mean? You need to be looking at it. I'd say like if you're going 10 games, then you can kind of say like, if he doesn't have like any goals or assists after 10 games, you can be like, okay, like come on, we need to see more of it. You know what I mean? Like the amount of money that we paid for you. But at the end of the day, you've bought him for 10 years. You've like, and similar to with Nunes, I think Liverpool fans are very they're very combative when it comes to their players. I think 100, and I think you should be like that with your players. You know what I mean? You should want to protect them and basically like promote them as much as possible. Sometimes to your own detriment. But you can have a logical conversation as well. Like I don't think there's any point in sitting there and going Wirtz is going to be a flop because he hasn't got a GA after 4 games. Do you know what I mean? But you can say there were some things that were good in his performances, and there was definitely some things that he needs to improve. Like his decision making, I think, does need to improve. But I think that will come with time. And as this Liverpool team finds where he'll fit into how they try to play, and that will come. I think it's similar with Kirk as well. Do you know what I mean? It takes it's time more than anything else for these types of players.
No, I agree, and I'm personally think he needs time. I'm not going to write him off, and I'm trying I'll have a bit of banter and a bit of a laugh with people, but I'm trying my best to be not more honest about it. But how do I want my club to be? And I think the banter economy and the banter era of football, I've just become really tired of it. Where I think it's funny to be, Wirtz had another flop. What do you think? Jamie, what do you make of Timo Wirtz this weekend? Ha ha ha, laugh. Then you get onto the game. That is how it always used to be with your friends. You never sat there with your mates having banter about football, where when you got into the serious bit, every comment you make didn't get challenged with banter. That's not how real conversations are. And that's the bit I think that I find jarring. You make a dig, or maybe someone explains something, then you make a little dig or a joke and you all laugh and you get back to the serious nature of it. That's how football conversations always were in my friend groups, work, school, at home, family. It's what social media started off being like, but it's got to this point now where all people want to, and I get it, by the way. You see, I don't know if you've seen it this season. Because of last season, everybody told Arsenal. And by the way, this actually started with Liverpool and City, but it got to its worst. So I remember when Liverpool had the injuries, they won the league, and then they got Liverpool got the injuries at centre-back, and everyone was like, no excuse when you didn't go on to retain your league title.
Yeah.
That has just continued from that point where to last year, Arsenal had a crisis of injuries, City had a crisis of injuries, and because people wanted to shit on them so bad, they were like, no excuse. You can't even use it as a reasoning. And now we've created this precedent where teams are getting like 3 or 4 top players missed, and you go, how do you think you'll cope? You can tell what they want to say is, I'm a little concerned and worried about this. Yeah. We don't have but instead they're having to go, no excuse, we still got to win. What do you mean no excuses? That you might not drop off a little bit if your best players are injured or if this is going on. That's the thing for me. It's this element of we've created, I was saying earlier about standards. We've created standards that have never existed before, that don't actually exist in the reality of a football club. Like managers are judged on results, absolutely. But are an ownership going to... Imagine we started this season and for whatever reason, half our squad was out injured. This start of the season wouldn't be judged as harshly by Ineos as maybe they're judging it right now. Because there are mitigating factors. And why is it suddenly in football, the only sport where we don't like mitigating factors? And it's just weird. It's because of the banter economy. Because this is what people think. If I agree with the mitigating circumstances, I can't rip into a rival. No, you always could. It's banter. It ain't serious. No one takes a joke. No one thinks you're actually knocking on people's doors when you say knock knock. Who's there? They don't think you're really doing it. It's not real.
Who's at my door?
Know that. Yeah. What do you going around knocking on people's doors, Terry? Oh, you scumbag. No, but what are we doing here?
I think what you need to remember is that like at the end of the day, football is entertainment, and like when we come on, like say these types of shows, I'm sure, like Terry, I know I've seen like some of the other shows that you do. If you're in the chat now, right, and you're going into a show, you need to know the type of show that you're going into. Some people will maybe lean more into the banter side of things. Some people want to be a little bit more like logical and talk about it. There's a place for everything, and I think to be successful and like have a good YouTube channel and want to talk about like football, you need to have that type of personality where you can lean into both. If you're one or the other, if you're too far, say just like banter, it gets boring after a while. And if you're too logical all the time, it gets boring after a while. You need to have a little bit of a personality with leaning into both of them, because there is a place for both of that in it. But I think when you're someone that's in the chat and you're watching these types of channels, and these types of, or you're say looking at these types of people on social media, you need to know what you're watching. Sometimes if you're sitting down and you're listening to people like say versus a flop, where you're talking about like the 007 thing that comes about, that's banter, and you need to realize that that's banter and not get played by it so easily.
Yeah.
And then when you want to have a conversation, you need to know these are the types of shows that maybe will have those types of conversations, and you can sit down and not get like you're not going to get steamrolled or bantered straight away by it. Do you know what I mean? It's part and parcel of listening to these types of YouTube channels, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to just entertain and have conversations.
And there's dichotomy. Some channels are like that. There are some channels that will be live today where the 85-90% of the show is let's just rip into each other's teams. And if you enjoy that, go and enjoy it. If you don't like it, just don't watch it. It's just not gonna happen on my platform. I know it's not gonna happen on the United Stand. I know it's not gonna happen on many a channel. You know, 12th Man, loads of channels I love and respect. Yours, Sam's. There's moments for banter, but then there's having serious conversations as well. The problem is it's when the banter's used in a serious way, like the 007, like the 007 stuff. Right, that's it. If you go 7 games without a goal or assist, you're a flop. It's like, okay, if you think that, but it's got so serious, people started using preseason games. I'm seeing people count the preseason games. Is that 7 games now? So
they played 10 minutes and come off. Sesko's getting it. It comes off of the bench.
Yeah. He's had 1 start. He's already on he's on 3 games already. He's had 2 starts.
80 minutes.
Yeah. It's like, are you not considering how bad the team? What? Okay, sorry, something someone said. I thought it was saying important. It wasn't. Yeah, it's just one of those things for me. And people always do this as well. They go, "Are you trying to stop banter happening?" No, I'm not trying to stop banter. I'm trying to make banter better. Let's make banter great again, where it wasn't taken too seriously and used as a real talking point. It's crazy for me. Exclusive. Liverpool are making serious moves for Man United target Carlos Bolivar in the January window.
I feel like he's not the type of player we would go after though. They don't like that kind of, like we have Gravenberch there, but I think Boliva he is good on the ball, to be fair, but he's more that kind of, he's more similar to Caicedo than I would say Gravenberch.
Do you know what's crazy though? I've watched all of Brighton's games so far this season. I'd say he's been distinctly average. Which is also,
maybe his head has been turned though.
Maybe his head's been turned. Absolutely. Maybe he's a young player. It's normal to have these moments. This is also why I implore United fans, don't be believing that if we just get Bolivar, we're set. We're a long way away, and he may not come in and hit the ground. Look how good Kirkes was for 2 years. Look how bad he's been so far at Liverpool. It takes time, and this is why we've got to stop this. And I don't know what the word for it is, but I think I'm going to start calling it the silver bullet effect. This, when we get him, we're fixed. We're done. That is for me. We're sold too much by snake oil salesman. I think we're a long way from that. Listen, Jamie, always a pleasure to sit and speak football with you. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in this morning, everyone who's liked and shared. This is going to redirect you to a Liverpool stream. Don Hussam is live now with a full Liverpool panel speaking Liverpool. So go and support that now. We're back around 5 p.m. for 6-sided, which I think is going to get heated tonight. We've got some massive questions to ask our audience. So we'll see you all back here on the terrace at 5 p.m. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.